Chapter 5. Killing Time. The anticipation of today's meeting with Brad kept him up most of the night before. The fight with Jordan hadn't helped his energy levels either, but there was work to do, so he retired upstairs to study. Marcus's room was tiny, designed long ago for people significantly smaller than him. His twin bed and antique desk occupied the entire area. The Cedar of Lebanon workspace was one of Marcus's most prized possessions, a bequest from his grandmother Beatrice, who the brothers lovingly called Nonna. She'd brought the wooden artifact back to the United States as a child. Everything about the piece felt important. As he spread his homework out across the surface, he could hear his father's voice say, "Man needs a system. No matter how flawed a man with a system will always beat a man without one." Despite his system and an equally studious work ethic, fatigue won the war. He woke hours later to the muffled vibrations of Jordan's music. He didn't remember dreaming. Marcus felt terrible after naps, and this was no exception. Fear of having missed symposium seized him, but he saw there was still time to make it. Marcus grabbed his tablet and started toward the Carol and Tanner Irish Humanities building at the heart of campus. It was a long walk across the same path he'd traversed twice today, but his slower pace was pleasant. It provided a moment for continued reflection on Brad's offer. The history department relocated to the Tanner building from Carlson Hall in -13 NE, a few years before his father's death. Marcus had vivid memories of visiting for the first time. It felt hollow compared to Carlson Hall. Most of the offices were empty because, unlike the law school, the humanities had been shedding staff since the Soviet Union launched Sputnik in -64 NE. Since then, the disciplines of war won the public's hearts and minds. Society was too busy blazing a path toward its future to look back on where it had been. Regardless, Marcus's father had been one of the last great historians of that earlier era. Everything changed with the Federation's arrival. They were mesmerized by stories of humanity's past, especially the ancient world, and particularly Rome. Since historians had a monopoly on this knowledge, they became the new global elite overnight. The professor leading today's symposium, Luke Kelly, was a prime example of this meteoric rise in social status. He frequently joked about having gone from reading Latin and playing Xbox one day to acting as a consigliere to the Federation the next. Luke had a thin frame, bordering on frail, a mouthful of snarled teeth and one lazy eye. Regardless, he was a fountain of energy, serving as a world-class lecturer, the curator of ancient antiquities at the Utah Museum of Fine Arts, and one of the few humans who could get private meetings with the Federation, no questions asked. He was a bigger celebrity than Jordan, but Marcus knew Luke before he was cool. As Anthony's mentor and their father's most beloved graduate student, their mother excluded. Marcus weaved his way through the Tanner building's crowded lobby and past the IKEA-style furniture to an Italian deli counter. Caputo's was the social focal point for the entire building, and Marcus regularly stopped here for coffee when he was able to attend symposiums. With drink and tablet in hand, he took a seat in the building's auditorium at the end of a row. Luke adopted his mentor's style, honoring the original meaning of the word history by telling everything as a story. Supported through a host of sponsorships, Luke had crafted an immersive multimedia experience, which included the most advanced tech complement for viewers at home or in the audience. All of this made Luke's symposium the highest-rated live program in the world, surpassing the black market fights broadcasted from Nereo. Luke's narrative was captivating, moving fluidly through political and military history to social and economic life before covering art and culture. All the stories Luke told, like Marcus's father before him, were also useful. He would have made a great connector, Marcus thought. The room went dark, and screams of excitement cut across the auditorium's silence. "Good afternoon," Luke said over the roar of music. Images of Rome scrolled across electronic surfaces surrounding the entire lecture hall. "Welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone." Luke paced the stage like a rock star to the continued cheers of the crowd. Thank you, thank you." Symposium felt more like a concert than an academic lecture. It would have been impossible to describe this situation to someone even a year earlier. They wouldn't have believed history could impact people like this. "Thank you," Luke said one last time as the room quieted. "The topic for today's symposium is the crisis of the 3rd century, a 50-year period of chaos within the Roman Empire. As we talk, I want you to imagine what it was like to live in a world experiencing repeated economic depressions, a world where money was so worthless it couldn't buy life-sustaining grain, where plague and unending civil war chewed through the citizenry while elites spent their time vying for power, instead of using it to society's benefit." Marcus imagined a world like the one Luke described. It sent chills up his spine. The fact that today's symposium falls on the Ides of March is as poetic as it is prophetic for modern society. With Caesar's murder on this day 2,066 years ago, the Roman Republic ended. Forever. While the Roman Empire that replaced it would expand and continue for hundreds of years, the centralization of power from the people into the hands of a single ruler proved incapable of solving the social rot that had taken hold of one of the world's first known superpowers. And home to 65 million people, or one of 5 humans living on Earth at the time. Luke paused dramatically. Caesar's death, while not a direct part of the 3rd century crisis, was a sign of what was to come hundreds of years later after the assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander. For the next half-century, Rome would have as many emperors as it had in the previous 250 years. These individuals were known as barrack emperors, because their power resided in the control of armies whose fighting destroyed critical infrastructure, opened the borders to foreign invasion, and created conditions for plague and famine to ravage the Roman population. All of this gave support to the saying that soldiers starve last. Uncomfortable laughter rippled across the crowd. This instability collapsed the global economy, and for the first time in 700 years, the city of Rome had to fortify itself behind a new set of walls. While this stopgap measure had few pros, it created a wide range of new and unexpected cons. Luke's comment reminded Marcus. Pros and cons. He'd almost forgotten Brad's direction and pulled out his tablet. The task proved to be an intellectual tractor beam. Despite his love for Luke and today's topic, he spent the rest of the symposium working on his list. The final score was 20 pros to 15 cons. He'd return to Brad's lab tonight. Marcus looked up in time to catch Luke's closing remarks. Even though Emperor Aurelian, under the banner of his personal god Sol Invictus, finally reunited the fractured empire, it wouldn't last. Subsequent emperors redivided Rome into eastern and western portions. When the western half fell in minus 1545 NE, it plunged much of the world into 1,000 years of comparable darkness as important knowledge of engineering, art, and science collapsed. This is a period you know as the Middle Ages, or Dark Ages, under the control of another centralized power. The Catholic Church. It wouldn't be until the Renaissance that this lost knowledge was reborn, priming the progress that brings us together today. Luke's silence signaled the end to the audience, and the crowd climbed to their feet in jubilation as music blasted through the auditorium. The energy was electrifying, Marcus thought as he cheered. Quiet down, please, thank you. Shh, said Luke. A happy Ides to each of you. Remember that right now, halfway across the world in the eternal city of Rome, there are people leaving flowers for a man, a tyrant, whose death by political frenemies in a knife-free zone shaped who we are today, and where we choose to go next. Marcus's father used to say this every March 15th, so he knew the next line before Luke said it. So, ask what you are doing with your life that the world will remember thousands of years from now. Marcus loved hearing a piece of his father live on through Luke. It was almost 3:15 p.m. when Marcus walked out of the Tanner building. He had hours to burn before returning to Brad's lab. He didn't want to go home and risk another skirmish with Jordan. His mind was set about joining the cohort. As penance for his earlier failure, he headed to the library to study. The Marriott Library was named after J. Willard Marriott, the Mormon business magnate whose hotels scattered the planet. In minus 52 NE, he donated $1 million to the library. In return, the library renamed itself. The building was retrofitted to withstand an earthquake, a necessary upgrade since the university sat directly atop a major fault line. The library's renovation wasn't just structural. It also included an automated retrieval center, the ARC, capable of handling 3 times as many books as existed in the Library of Alexandria. The Marriott Library was mostly empty. Officially, the school canceled spring break because of the looming Confederation threat, yet students were still off unofficially celebrating. Marcus found a quiet corner and settled in, but his mind wandered to the Federation, to Brad, to the lab, and what tonight would be like. He turned 18 the day the Federation arrived, which made him feel personally connected to them. Safe, even. But the idea of starting selection was making his stomach turn. He couldn't shake Jordan's warnings. Leaning on his stoic training, Marcus was able to focus on his studies. The next time he looked up, it was 6:28 p.m. He couldn't do another minute in the books. It was a short walk to the Student Union, where Marcus headed straight for its arcade. He came here for Lethal Enforcers, the first-person police shooter game he'd grown up playing at home on Antony's Sega CD. Tech had destroyed the gaming industry, too. Few people wanted to play something with their hands when they could actually live it. Arcades like this still littered the landscape because it was cheaper to keep them running than remove the machines. But their status was self-evident, tucked into a back corner beyond a sea of dusty billiards tables. Like the library, this space was empty and smelled pungently of stale popcorn and industrial-grade carpet cleaner. Marcus pulled the game's light gun from the holster, dropped in a quarter, and slapped the large red start button. He wasn't sure if he was playing for entertainment value or nostalgia. "Mind if I join?" said Velia. Marcus was surprised to see her. She'd appeared out of thin air. "Not at all, jump in." "How'd your interview go?" Marcus hesitated after Brad's warning, but Velia already knew, so he didn't see the harm. "It was good. They offered me a spot. I start tonight." "Congratulations!" Velia exclaimed, gunning down every single bad guy on the screen. "Thanks. I'm sorry for how I acted earlier." "What do you mean?" feigned Velia. "It was rude to cut our conversation short. I don't know much about you or anyone else, in fact. Other than Jordan, obviously. What would you like to know?" Marcus was struggling to keep up with Velia's skyrocketing score. "The usual. How old are you?" "How old do you think I am?" "If I had to guess, I'd say 21. "You nailed it. That's incredible." "You're wise beyond your years." "How's that?" Velia was noticeably nervous. "You were right about the biggest weakness question." Velia took a break from blasting criminals to throw Marcus an easy smile. "Are you from Utah?" Marcus was checking off question boxes like this was a census survey. "No, I grew up outside of Portland, then I bounced around for a while." "How'd you end up here?" "My mom was from Utah, but the scholarships are why I came. What about you?" "Born and raised," Marcus proclaimed. "Are you Mormon?" Now it was Velia's turn to whittle down the boxes to put Marcus in. "No, I was raised Catholic." "With the last name Adams?" "My father was Anglican, but converted from my mother when they got married." "Do you still go to church?" "No, I was never that religious to begin with." "Me neither," Velia declared. Marcus died multiple times, but Velia was still playing on her first quarter. "You're good at this." "I've been playing video games for a very long time," she commented. As he bent over to feed the machine another chunk of alloyed metals, Marcus's eye was drawn to the pattern of black stars sketched up both of her arms. There were 3 distinct shapes, each based on a pentagram modified by adding 2 or 3 additional points. The trio of shapes repeated in varying sizes, but all were solid black except for a single 5-pointed star on the inside of her right forearm. It was, by and large, the biggest on either of her appendages. "I like your tattoos." "Thanks," Velia replied, noticing his fixation on the unfilled pentagram. "It's a work in progress. I love them, but it's an expensive hobby. I have to earn each one. Do you have any?" "No, needles make me nervous." "Me too, actually." "Jordan's got a ton of tattoos. I've gone with him a few times for moral support. Honestly, I don't think I could tolerate that level of pain." "It's addictive," Velia said with a wide grin, a serious rush. The conversation dipped as she propelled them into game stages Marcus had never reached. It was fun being lost in the moment with someone free of ulterior motives. Then he saw the time. "Shit." "What's up?" Velia looked at Marcus while continuing her devastating gunfire. "I've got to go. They told me if I miss a session, I'll be fired. Thanks for the game, it was fun." "Yeah, it was. Good luck." Marcus was already on his way when his gut stopped him. He raced back to Velia's side. "One more thing," Marcus said sheepishly. "The Federation researcher told me to be careful about who I tell. About selection, that is. I'm sorry to ask, but can you keep this between the two of us?" "Absolutely." Velia locked eyes with Marcus. "You can trust me to keep it secret." "Thanks. Have fun with the rest of the game." The sun was setting as Marcus ran across campus, arriving at Carlson Hall right at 8 p.m. This time, he opened the door to Brad's lab with confidence.